You're about to listen to an episode we recorded with Ray Saddiq. Ray is the senior SEO manager at HomeServe. The biggest takeaway from this episode is if you're not building personal brand, you're going to be left behind as a business owner. In this episode, we focus on the practical steps of building a personal brand. So we pose Ray the scenario of starting from zero. We give him the 1225 account, imagine it has 0 followers, and talk about how we would build that account up to something that we could leverage. So if you want to know how to grow your personal brand, the steps you need to take and the platforms you need to be on to find your audience, this is the episode for you. We hope you enjoy.
What does personal brand mean to you?
Personal brand to me, it's yourself. It's being authentically you, but the online version of yourself. It's the same way that you would when your friends introduce you at a party or an event, how they would introduce you. It's the same way as Alex Hormozi says, when you're not in the room, that's what they say about you. It's when your name comes up in that conversation. It's also the emotion that's linked to your name. So if someone speaks about a certain topic or certain emotion and you come to mind, that plays into what your personal brand is. And there's loads of people out there who have a really strong personal brand. But one of them in particular, like Grace Beverly, she's got an amazing personal brand. And it's so big, and it's crazy how much she's grown it, to the fact that she's been able to grow these businesses off the back of it, but so much so that she's now being censored on the type of content she can produce about her own businesses. And that's something I don't really agree with, because I feel like as business owners, same with you guys, if you want to talk about your podcast, about your business and stuff on LinkedIn, why do you guys not get censored, but she does? So I think it's about having a personal brand that's so powerful that people do start to do things like that. They start to censor you.
Ray, you're obviously an expert in this area, personal branding. You've walked the walk as such. What have the results been from you building your own personal brand?
Yeah, it's quite an interesting question, because when I don't really post that often, but the opportunities that I've got off the back of the limited amount of posts, how I put myself out at networking events, the different talks I've gone, have been incredible. But I want to take this back a little bit. I want to start firstly with talking about before I was in my actual professional career, when I was just building Instagram accounts and working with brands. I was able to leverage my then quite large following to get me into the room with big influencers, big rappers, and that led me to meeting business people, and that opened up doors for me before I even knew what personal brand was. When I just thought, I was just building an Instagram account, I thought I was an influencer, I thought I was a YouTuber. Then when I got into my professional career, I realized, okay, I can really do this, and I started posting more. I realized I looked at everyone who's in the industry right now, and I looked and I saw these people do this. What if I just do that and see what happens? And I literally, if you go on my LinkedIn, now I'm trying a bit harder. Okay, I'm putting a little bit of work in now, but if you look over the last couple of years, I have done the bare minimum, but I have got job opportunities off the back of it. I have got huge creators reach out to me. I've got massive brands that have asked me to come do a consulting session with them. I've grown my business of it. I've never ever reached out to a client so far. I've never done outreach to win a client. Clients have only ever came to me literally off the posts I've done. So I think that personal brand is one of the most powerful things that you can grow as a business owner right now. Attention may fade and people might prefer your AI avatar in a few years, but right now, build your personal brand and it will open up opportunities for you.
What we had spoken about is obviously if you start an account from zero, right? We've gone through that playbook, but let's look at it from the other side of things. So you've taken that account, you're now at a point where you could start thinking about how do you leverage that audience. Do you have any examples of people who have leveraged audiences well?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads that I can think of off the top of my mind. I've already mentioned Grace Beverly, who's incredible at it. She's built so many businesses. But another one recently is George Heaton would Represent. I think if you've watched this Stephen Bartlett interview, like his journey is incredible, man. Like the way that he's gone through that phase where he wasn't really leveraging his personal brand to actually realizing this is actually a really powerful tool for me. And off the back of it, it's gone so well that he's, with the way he's changed his life, just telling his story about how he's gone into the fitness realm, about how he did the 75 hard challenge. All these different things have played a massive part because the audience that he's made this new business off the back of it with his personal brand for are these fitness people. They've done the same things as him. So when they hear that, they're relating to him and going, I want to buy from that. Like, I'm thinking about doing 75 hard. I think you guys did it recently. Yeah. So I'm guessing you might probably, if you saw his content, I reckon you'd get engaged with it as well. And you'd go, I kind of want the 247 t-shirt. I want the shorts because that represents who I am. And I feel more like him. It's like, we used to look at it like celebrities. So celebrities, that you'd give them endorsements, you'd make them wear like a hoodie, and you'd feel like a celebrity. Now it's the same level, just on a micro level, that's still quite large. The influencer now has so much power that you want to feel like them. You want to feel the exact same emotion they put out. And George, he puts out an incredible amount of, like, you know, I feel motivated watching stuff. I remember I watched it, I was like, I'm going gym tonight, man. Like, I'm not messing about, I'm going gym tonight, because the content that he's putting out is making me feel that way, and he's a really good example of this. Another example of this is I don't know if you guys know about Cortez.
Mm-hmm.
So Clint, the guy who owns it, he just has such a very cool personality online, and although he's not the same way that George posts about himself, Clint does it in such a different way that he's included in these rappers' photos, in the background of these photos, and he's built such a powerful brand off the back of that people want to go, yeah, I will buy from him. So much so that it's not just the brand that gets spoken about in conversations online. It's actually more about him. So people will post a meme about whenever he posts, they're like, oh babe, wake up, Clint's posted. Like, he's now become part of that culture. So it can work in two ways. You don't actually have to be fully out there, but you can still command your personal brand. You just got to post and work out your strategy for both.
I think there's some interesting things about how this works as a playbook, right? Which is, I think a mistake that I see quite a lot is people try and leverage too soon. Or they go in with the idea of, like, I'm going to build an audience to leverage, right? Yeah. So then that you're constantly almost selling without realizing you're selling, right? You have to be value first and foremost, obviously, to build that audience before you then consider leveraging it. And I think that is now becoming like a creator-led playbook, right? You can see it. I think what else is interesting is how over the last couple of years, the model has changed, right? So you spoke about it there, that it was like a couple of years ago, very much in your prime years. Like, it was where like you'd have like celebrity endorsement deals, and then it became like influencer endorsement deals. And now it's almost becoming like influencer co-founders. People go find a co-founder to found with who's already got that audience, right?
Well,
I think Prime's a great example of that.
Prime is a really good example, and the same way an early version of this, when Pretty Little Thing, was it with Molly May? Yeah. So that's another great example. That was before this had even become a thing, and they'd taken advantage of that. So, but yeah, Prime is a really good example of this.
Yeah, and it shows if you're not in the realm that often, right? You'll often say, oh, did you see this thing from these people? And I'm like, who are they? It's like some influencers, and I'm like, no, that bypassed me. And I stopped at Michael Jordan with Nike back in the day, so yeah, we'll wait.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, that model, he probably actually, if you watch like the film, he kind of like pioneered that model, right? Because he was the first one really to ask for a percentage of the sales in return. But I think that is becoming more and more common now. Is I have this business idea, how do I like, we spoke about this for the podcast, funny enough, is like, if you look at most podcasts, they go through a scaling up period where it's like, I get this guest, then I get this guest, then I get this guest, like, and the follower counts grow, therefore your reach grows. But you could looking at, well, how do I bypass that growth stage? Well, what I could do is I could go partner with someone who's already got 100,000 subscribers, give them a percentage or whatever it is, but you've shortened your growth period by 3 years.
Yeah, that's true. And you can test out your products as well without actually spending any money. You can ask, you've got an audience there that you can ask, would you buy this? And they go yes or no, and you go, okay, cool. Like, I'm not gonna sell these t-shirts then, or I'm not gonna release this podcast because my audience don't care about it. It gives you a good tester, I think. A good place to start from. But one thing that I'm afraid of right now is it feels like we're getting close to, when there's the thing called the attention curve, right? And you see it across platforms, because the same things happen with TikTok, where it's good attention, but now the amount of organic reach is going down. And the same way with this kind of creator-led marketing funnel, this founder-led personal brand style thing, we're reaching a very, very close to the peak of that right now, because I feel like it's so big. And you realize, I remember someone telling me, it's like when the local shop owner starts telling you about it, or when the taxi driver starts telling you that this is happening, that things are changing. And I feel like we're entering that phase right now. So I think now is the time to jump on it. because otherwise you're going to miss the opportunity. The same way I regret not going in harder on TikTok in 2020. We're in this kind of personal brand led. If you've got a business, build your personal brand, because eventually that might not be as important. Like I said, AI avatars might take over, or I don't know, whatever happens next. But we're at that point in that attention curve right now.
Let's talk more specifically about posting. So, like, I hear a lot of people, the advice that they give, or the first piece of advice is like, just start posting. I get that as a principle, but I think there are barriers to that. And the two that I see most are, people definitely have a fear of being cringe, right? And like becoming the people that they don't want to be, if that makes sense. They'll see people on social and they're like, I don't want to be that person. So they just don't do it at all because they're worried about that happening. And the second one is, like, I get this sometimes, but okay, I'm going to make more of an effort on like my Twitter, for example. I'll sit down and I'll just stare at like the create tweet page and I'm like, I've got nothing. So I think my two questions are, how do you stop being cringe? Yeah. Or if you are worried about cringe, should you just forget about it? And like, where do you begin to like start producing content?
Okay, so the first thing is, cringe doesn't exist online. Like, if you look at the type of content that people are posting online, they don't see themselves as cringe. And anyone who's doing the same thing, anyone who's on a similar journey to you, where they're building a brand, they're building a business, they are not going to find you cringe. People will probably find you cringe are the people who actually know you, like your friends, because your friends know what you are like normally, right? So they're going to see you posting, they'll be like, this is you, because when you first start posting, you put on a different personality, you almost act in a different way. So that might appear cringe, but it's not really cringe. And if you want to get started, what I say to most business owners and most people I work with, most kind of like, even if you want to start creating content, you just want to become a content creator, see it as going to the gym. So you don't have to start just by doing what everyone else is doing, because video, as you know, is like, that's the main way of doing social media at the moment. That it works really well. Video crushes it, but you don't have to just do video. I say start with what makes you feel most comfortable online. So for me personally, like, I have dyslexia, so video is my natural outlet. I'd rather do a video than write a post. But for someone else who doesn't like being on video, they might want to actually write up a piece of content. So I would say start by that and just start setting yourself a goal. Every 2 days, I'm just going to put a post up. LinkedIn, Twitter. I like the written format. Then what I'll do is I'll tell them, okay, now we need to look at platforms where your audience actually hangs out. Look at places that have high organic reach. So if you're a B2B business, go to a platform like LinkedIn, because that's got high organic reach and you like making written content. So just start there. Instead of going straight to TikTok or going straight to YouTube Shorts when you have no experience with video and you're not quite ready for it. Once you've started to build that muscle up, it's the same as going to a gym, like same as working out, because you start off like, if you're out of shape or you haven't been to a gym for a while, what you might do is go for a walk every day, and that'll be easier than going straight in and just lifting weights. And then you'll slowly build yourself up to going running, to doing fitness classes, to lifting weights. And that slow progression is the same thing with content creation. So you need to be able to post here, you need to be able to create content that you're already comfortable with at a rate that you're comfortable with. And then once you get to that point that you can actually, you think, yeah, now I can grow, then you can start doing more things like video and go to different platforms. But I think everyone should start. I think that's the main thing. And it's the hardest thing to do, but just post. If you have to post on a burner account to get yourself warmed up or something, then do that. But you need to start.
Yeah, I suppose we've kind of already, like, the cringe factor as well. But sometimes I will write a lot of posts on LinkedIn. Lots of people say, oh, God, you're on LinkedIn all the time. But after time, some of the posts go over to your desk to check, and you're like, are you sure you want to post that? Are you really sure you want to post that?
Yeah, I think that just quickly, it comes back to something that you said that resonated, which is like, when you first start posting content, you're like pretending almost, like you're putting out like an online version of yourself, which isn't you.
Yeah,
and
it's something that you think the audience wants to see of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's that thing of like, that's why I don't necessarily like, do you know, like when you like psychological test pre-interview and stuff like that, people are answering that based on what they think the person reviewing that test is going to want to see, right? And I think it's almost the same thing, is that like when you first start posting, you're like, okay, well, I saw this other person posting this thing and this thing did well. so I'm going to do that as well. Like, I'm just going to pretend to be.
Become your favorite creator, right?
Yeah, exactly. So how do you like there is a learning curve there? Is it the case of, like you say, just getting the reps in,
Yeah.
or is there a different way that you can become like,
Well,
your authentic?
You've got to
version?
get used to it first, right? Everyone's got to get used to it. All the biggest creators on all these big platforms, these YouTubers, they did the same thing. Like, they were creating this cringeworthy content, and then eventually they got good at it, or they learned their style. I think I call it, for me, finding my flow.
Okay.
So when I start posting on a platform, back when I used to manage my own Instagram accounts, back when I first started on TikTok, when I was running TikTok accounts for brands, I would post, learn what people are enjoying, and then I'd find my flow. I'd be like, okay, now this piece of content here is what people like, it's what the audience enjoys, and I feel good making it. It's not necessarily that it might not be the best, highly produced piece of creative that's out there, but I feel really comfortable making it, and people are enjoying that piece of content. So I think it's really important that you find your flow, and the only way to find your flow is by posting. The other thing is, one thing I didn't mention was native content understanding is really important when it comes to learning any platform. So when you first start going to a platform, I say this to business owners who've never posted before, and often what happens is, especially if, like, let's say TikTok, right? You've got a person who does a business accounting. They've never really used TikTok. When they go on there, it's going to be just the random For You page. So they'll scroll like 5-6 times. They'll just get videos that no one cares about. Like, that's not relevant to them, or it's just like dance videos, or the typical stuff that people think TikTok's about, right? What I tell them is, instead, okay, no, what I want you to do is I want you to spend the next 5 days just searching within your niche. After 5 days, I've told them to scroll. I mean, TikTok need to give me some shares, because I get people's scroll time up so much. I tell people you need to be spending time scrolling your phone, because what will happen is they will just learn slowly, like, okay, this is the nuances. This is what people are talking about. These are some inside jokes within the industry that I never knew about originally. And then all of a sudden they'll come back to you and go, oh, I understand what you meant by making a carousel post now, because before no one would understand that. And they go, okay, so that's how people actually act within the community. It's not like you're just looking at one creator that you want to copy. Instead of looking at that one creator, you actually start looking at the industry as a whole, and you go, I want to create content about this topic here. And what I want to do is I want to do it in my way. What do you think about this? And then I go, cool, let's try that, and then we'll see if we can find your flow.
Yeah, I think we saw that between us in very recently. So we have a client, Total 25 has a client, Henderson's of Melrose, and Kate, who owns the store there. They have a fantastic shop up in the Scottish borders, and the thing that she's been battling is, how does she take that feel online to expand her reach, right? So you and I were working with her on TikTok.
Yeah.
And she gets it, right? She's got an Instagram account. She knows how to do videos. She knows how to edit. But it was such a big barrier for her, because when she would go onto TikTok, like you said, her account hasn't warmed up, right? The algorithm does not know what she is interested in. So she's just getting served the generic dance videos, or, whatever the viral snippet is of the day. And instantly she just put the phone down. Go, this isn't for me. This is totally different content. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So you said to her exactly that. Spend a week. I don't want you to post anything. I just want you to go on every day and scroll. And by the end of it, she's like, okay, I get it now. She still didn't necessarily like the content in her industry. Yeah. But I think that was fine. Because then you go, okay, I don't like that because of X, Y, Z. Here's what I can do differently. Yeah. But she had a much clearer idea of, okay, I don't have to be doing dance videos or comedy skits for it to work.
And she gets an idea of what people like as well, right? Because that's where her audience's attention is, where her customers' attention is. So now she understands, okay, their attention is here. What are they actually liking? Cool. I'm not too sure about that. I could do it differently. And then she can go from there, which is one powerful thing that a lot of business owners can do. They can literally just go away and go, oh, this is what my audience actually like. It's not just this random generic kind of templated blog post that I've done for the last 20 years. I can actually distribute that said blog post into an interesting piece of content on this platform, and I know how to do it now because the audience have told me.
I want to get onto platform repurposing and things like that, because I think it fits nicely into the case study of Henderson's as well. But one of the things that you and I are pushing very hard for on the pod is to take like holistic concepts and make them more practical. So let's say 1225, we have nothing. We just have an account. We have an account on TikTok, LinkedIn, etc., platform of your choice, but we've got 0 followers. Yeah. Where do we begin?
Okay, so we work out who you want to target, because the first thing, it depends on what you want as well. So do you want to make money, or do you want to just grow an audience?
Short term, grow an audience.
So what you want to do is you want to just firstly, we know now you want to pick a platform that's got high organic reach. So you work out which platforms have high organic reach. So right now that'll be TikTok, which its reach is less than what it was in 2020, which we all know, but it's still very powerful from an organic perspective. You might go to LinkedIn, for example, which has got a lot of organic reach. Again, not as much as it used to be. Threads is also quite powerful. What else have we got? We've got YouTube Shorts as well. There's a lot of attention on that. And then I'd go, okay, cool. Now that I'm here, how do the people that I want to make content for, what type of stuff do they like on here? And like I said, I would just spend some time scrolling, working out exactly the type of content that I want to make. Then I would go away to a completely different industry that's not the same industry as mine, and I would see how they make content there and see if I can do this thing called trend stacking. So the first thing I want to do is I want to try and just understand the differences between why this industry here, the one that you're focusing in, so I'm guessing yours would be like business clients, B2B clients.
I was going to say, let's stick on that 1225 feed, so we can do it like real time a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'll take notes.
Just write this down. So all right, 1225.
Yeah.
Primarily, we're going to be wanting to speak to two types of people. So CMOs who have decision-making power, or business owners. That's it.
Cool. So I'm thinking LinkedIn, and maybe X as well.
Okay.
I think there's an opportunity there. From what I've seen, there's a lot. There's something happening right now between LinkedIn and Twitter. This is a bit of a side note before we get back into it, but there seems to be people from LinkedIn are moving over to X. Big creators from LinkedIn are moving over to X, and the same thing is happening. And what I'm seeing within our industry, outside of our industry, big creators in general, they're partnering up with people who are, so let's say you've got a creator who's big on X at the moment, they're partnering up with people who are big on LinkedIn. And what's happening is, especially in the business world, these people are now moving over. So we've got two big platforms with loads of organic reach where it's just business owners. So if you're targeting business owners, I would go to these platforms. So going back to what you were saying there was, I would say, okay, let's start with X, let's start with LinkedIn. Okay, now let's understand what type of content you guys enjoy making. What do you guys like making?
Educational content.
Okay.
So I think like there was a thing that Alex Hormozy did a really good video about like how he's transformed his content strategy over the last 6 months or something. And it was like, you have three types of content. You have entertainment content, edutainment content, or educational content. I think right now, like, I would love to do like entertainment style, like vlog content, etc. But I think in terms of like finding like we're pretending to be people we're not, and like making the agency world seem more exciting than it is for the most part to do that. I think where we're most comfortable right now is that educational style content. Like we do it
absolutely
day to day, right?
Yeah, but we're obviously the audience first organic search agency. That we've got to think about our audience and what they want. Like the niches that we're going after, the people that we're trying to attract into our business, I think they need education, and that's how we choose.
I think that's a really good point, because there's two things that we see, right? Is either, even now, like 25 years down the line, there is still a percentage of business owners who don't necessarily understand SEO or think it's a dark art or think like the search and social blend it's just new to them, still a new concept. And you have the others who, which is probably 70% of our target customers, have had an SEO agency and have been burnt by an SEO agency. So I agree. They need education. Sounds a bit patronizing, I don't mean like that. But like they are craving educational content, and that's probably the realm that we're more comfortable in. So let's go. Okay, we've got our two platforms, X, which is hard to say, X and LinkedIn.
Can we just call it Twitter?
I still call it Twitter.
Everyone does. Let's just call it Twitter.
Okay.
Anyway, X, Twitter, whatever we're going to call it, LinkedIn, and we're going to do educational content.
Okay, cool. So now we got to understand the next thing. So what do your audience like? That's the next step. So how you'd work that out is spending some time on those platforms and pretending that you are one of your audience, whatever your ideal customer profile is. You'd go and just do what they would probably do on that profile, interact with how they would interact, or stalk some of them, see the type of content that they're liking, see the type of content they're sharing, and then go, okay, I've made a list, put it into a spreadsheet, and then sit down and go, let's work out what kind of educational content links into that. What's interesting is I think what you said there is you want to focus on educational content, and you mentioned Alex Hormozy's framework of the different forms. I think obviously educational content on its own won't be enough. What you need to do is you need to use educational content as your base, because that's what you like making and that's what you're confident making. So make that your base of your consistent posts.
Yeah.
But what you do need is you need entertainment content. You need content that engages the audience. On LinkedIn especially, what happens is people will post an educational post and that's it, they're done. Whereas the good creators and people who do really well, they'll post an educational post and then 2 weeks later they'll follow up on that post with a video that's not just a repurposement of that first post. It's not just like they're copying and pasting it into a video. What they'll do instead is they'll follow on from that and they'll link in like a relevant trend that's just happened, and that's what makes them different. So people aren't just following you because, oh yeah, I see a post from you. People are following you because now they have a reason to follow you, because in 2 weeks time they know that you're going to add something that's even more valuable to this initial post, and because they've liked this post, the algorithm's going to bring it back to them. So I think it's a finding the balance between between both of them. So taking that educational content that you want to do, putting that as your base, and then working in that entertainment.
Would it be like that 80-20 split, do you reckon?
I would say more, I don't know, so educational 40, entertainment 20. What other styles of content we can do? We can do collabs as like 10%, background kind of stuff. You can do memes that's different to just entertaining content on video. It's more of like image based. I'm trying to think of what else you can do. You can do a lot of other things like being in the comments. So commentary can be part of your content strategy, making sure that you're repurposing your big posts into comments and putting them on people's posts. So that's another part of the strategy that you can add in.
Okay.
What about posting frequency? Because we've gained 2 clients of ours from activity on
That's
LinkedIn.
incredible, yeah.
And they both highlight it and say, oh, yeah, I saw you were doing this stuff, so that's why. But they've also said to me, like, you're on it all the time.
Yeah.
You post too much.
Yeah.
Lots of people say that. Like, how far is too far, or do you just keep going? Because clearly it's working. It's got some kind of result.
Yeah, like clearly it's working for you guys, which is good. And I think the frequency you're doing it now, if it's working, then stay at that frequency or maybe increase it. There was, sorry, this Nando's is giving me a sore throat. I don't know why. So before, I think especially during COVID times, there was that big thing about trying to post as much as you can. Because I think people like Gary Vee were really pushing you to post as much content as possible because you wanted as many eyeballs as possible on your content, on your brand. And it's true to a degree, because you could put out 3 posts a day and the algorithm's not going to show all 3 of those posts to 100% of your followers. So most of the time your followers, like I think it's like 10% or something, actually see the content you're putting out, and then it goes up based on how many likes and interactions and things you get from that point that pushes out further. It also depends on the platform, so you got to take in what's the norm on that platform. Like on a platform like X, you could tweet all day and I don't think it makes a difference. I think more content on X is very powerful. Whereas on LinkedIn, what I've realized is content performs better, and some of the bigger creators that I speak to as well, they say the same thing. They feel that content performs better when you only post 4 times a week, which is outside of the norm, because a lot of people say post twice a day or post once a day on LinkedIn, which when I've spoken to some of these big creators, they've gone to me and said, well, we post 4 times a week, and then I've tried it. So I've tried it over the last couple of weeks, and I've noticed when I post 4 times a week or 3 times a week, I get a lot more likes, a lot more engagements. My impressions are higher in general. So it's important about understanding the platform mechanics as well. Then you got a platform like TikTok. So if you want to, right now, I mean, this of course will change probably by the time this comes out, but right now there's a whole thing around you should be posting at least 2 to 3 videos a day, 3 to 4 videos a day. I don't think that's right, because there's so much saturation on TikTok now. It's a bigger platform than it was before. The algorithm, in my opinion, needs room to breathe. So you don't want to be posting 4 times a day. I think once a day, twice a day. And the thing is, with that once or twice a day post on the platform like TikTok, your production time goes up. You have more time to produce a better creative, a better piece of content that can go out, and it might be more effective. But then there is the flip side of things, because sometimes people overanalyze things, right? And then you don't post, and then that's the worst bit. So you do need to set yourself some deadlines of saying, I will post this if it's not ready by X time. So yeah.
Okay, so we got our audience, we got our platforms, we've done the research. From the research, how do you turn research into ideas?
So, well, you guys are SEOs, right? Yeah, so content mapping, right? So we're going to take those ideas. We're going to, same way that you would do with keywords, you would turn them into, I mean, you saw the plan that I put together for Henderson. So that will include an idea style. So I will take the idea, I will map that to videos that already exist on the platform. I've got like a spreadsheet of video examples that I can just pull from whenever I need. And what I'll do is I'll map that to that idea and then map it to a topic. And then from there, just produce a content plan based around that. And I like to think of it as in like a Netflix series. So if it's a video, especially in video format, I will go off the basis of I'm actually producing a video series here. I'm not just producing a one-off piece of content. How can I link this in with more things so I'm telling a story as people start to follow me? Because the thing is, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, when someone sees your post once come up on their feed because someone else has liked it or commented it, if they see you come up again the next week for a similar topic, they're going to see that, oh, this guy's actually relevant for this. Let me actually follow this person. So so map it out in terms of what is your post type, what is the topic you're covering by, what is an example post of something you want to look at that's similar to that. You probably don't need to do this as you get further along, but I think it's very important to use that because it helps you with copyright and it helps you with video styles, and then go from there and just turn it into a series.
Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll take it into, well, we need to then go do that, right?
Yeah.
And then we can come back and build a case study on it.
How obsessed are you with the stats that you gain from your posts? Because I sit there literally every day for the past year. I sit there. Oh, I've got 17 likes today, Harry.
Yeah, you've been doing it all day.
That was all day today.
It's a good post today.
I think like anyone, I think when I was younger, I used to have quite a few quite big Instagram accounts. So off the back of those, I felt like I would just get the dopamine hit of just seeing hundreds of likes, thousands of likes just coming in when you'd post a picture. And like I think some of your audience will probably remember this, when Instagram used to be the place for organic reach. You'd post something and it would just, so many likes and shares would come off the back of hashtags. So now I still get that, but just on a smaller scale. So because on LinkedIn I haven't got that many followers, I'll just post something on LinkedIn, and what I'm trying to get into habit now is just trying to ignore it till I do my next post. So that kind of motivates me to do my next post as well. So I'll be like, I've posted this, I can't look at it until I've got my next post ready, and then I'll post it. And that's motivating me and getting me into the routine of I need to do another post in order to see how I've done. Then I get the dopamine. So it's almost like tricking my brain into thinking posting is actually the good thing and not just the stuff you get off the back of posting.
Do you track your progress? Like each post, do you say like, yeah, okay, it's growing, worthwhile? And kind of timelines? Do you have kind of goals? Do you set KPIs with your posting?
For clients, I do. For myself, not really. So if we're talking about myself here, I usually, so I look at my LinkedIn impressions over a certain period of time, and because I'm not that active on LinkedIn, to be honest, it goes up and down. But I notice I'll look at the posts that do really well, and then I'll try and replicate the structure of those posts. On X, I've been doing this a lot more. So if I do a post and I notice, wow, this one really went off about this topic, I'm going to do that again next week because, this is clearly working. That's the only time I look at it. And then monthly, I might look at how many impressions have I got versus last month. But for clients, I would look at it a lot more like granular. So I'd work out exactly what types of how well they're doing, what posts are doing well on which days, what times their audience is most active. Looking at what type of demographic is liking and interacting with their post more, so we can target the next piece of content more closely to that. What post has gone viral? Why did it go viral? Reverse engineering that and looking at the data behind that. Looking over more than just like a month. Looking over like, does seasonality play a part? Was it like a seasonal trend that caused this? So I look a lot more when it comes to clients, but for myself, I guess I just don't have time really. And you guys know, innit? So like, it's hard to get all that time to do it all for yourself.
You've just said that kind of tactic. Look at what's working. Look at other creators, how they're doing like bits and pieces. Look at this is the most popular piece. Let's do that kind of again, but different. Yeah. Is that the same sort of tactic that other big names like in the podcasting world will listen to Chris Williamson, Stephen Bartlett, My First Million? Would they do the same with their analytics and just try and almost rinse and repeat? That's
interesting because, the big creators I know, so this is interesting. So I've been fortunate enough, because of my personal brand, I guess, I suppose outside of my personal brand as well, just the way that I just network sometimes. I've been lucky enough to be in the room and speak to some pretty big creators with millions of followers.
He's so humble.
And sometimes sometimes they'll say to me they don't look at any of this, they just post what they feel like, they don't care about it. And then some of them will say, oh no, I've actually got someone I've hired and this is what they do, and they do a full strategy behind them, which is literally the same way that I would do it, like a from a, I suppose, like a marketing brain. But I think it depends on, that's an SEO answer there, and it does depend though on who they are, and I suppose it depends on a lot of different things. I don't know if they would. I suppose that's a good question. Maybe, you never know. Stephen Bartlett might be watching this.
Well, George is best friends with him now. So okay, so I'm trying to think. Like I get looking at the metrics. It's interesting. So we had, Mike. We had Mike Jevons on the pod, talking about how he's grown. How many was it? 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
crazy.
Oh, he's a big on YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. So we were talking about that, and he was like, I analyze retention times, etc., etc. Like I look at all the data. I see which ones are performing well, so I can rinse and repeat, or do, like he was saying, like trying to treat it like recurring pieces of content in a series or whatever it may be. But we've spoken about this a few times today, I think, on several podcasts. What was it called? Was it called a content binge? Is that what it was called? No,
a binge bank.
A binge bank. Have you heard of the concept of a binge bank?
Wait, what's that?
Okay, so it's the principle of actually forgetting about what the metrics are saying on an individual video. Yeah. Right, so, or piece of content, whatever it may be. Forget about that. Think about it more like if someone was researching you, so they were doing a binge on your stuff, right? So they just type in like Harry Evans 1225. You're putting your best foot forward and they're just seeing all of that content, right? So regardless of how many views it's got, if that's high quality content that is putting the message that you want to be putting across, then you're hitting the achievement regardless of if it's got 10 views or if it's got 1 million views. And like I think that has really, in my mind, gone, actually, do you know what? Like if people are listening to this and if 100 people listen to it or 10,000 people listening to it, what we do know from the Google Search Console data is most people's first touch point on our website is name plus 1225, so it'll either be Harry 1225 or Brendan 1225, and then if they're seeing that content that they can then binge on, great.
I see. Okay, that's an interesting one for me, because I think that's good and I think that's important, and it's a good way to, I suppose, ideate content and put a strategy together on. The only thing I don't like about that is the over perfectionist, because what will happen is people will see that and be like, I want to put my best foot forward. So then they'll overthink it, and then they'll think, I need to make sure that every piece of content I put out now is literally, that's what that person's going to see when they binge me. When really, like, I mean, we were talking about that video I posted on TikTok today. I literally just filmed that in my car as I arrived here, posted it, and that's been my best performing video so far on my new account. So I think sometimes you have to kind of have the balance of both, and that's why I like the whole thing of having like a baseline. So like you were saying, having that kind of that binge worthy content as your baseline, maybe sticking that to 2 to 3 videos a week, or maybe 1 video or 1 post a week. That's my binge worthy content. That's my best foot forward. But when I have an idea, when I see a trending topic and I want to talk about that, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna post that video regardless if it's perfect or not, because I know that not everyone's going to see it, because the worst thing is going to happen is no one's going to see it. The best thing that's going to happen is everyone's going to see it. You know, it's going to go viral. That. So don't look at it from a perspective of being too perfect. So, but have that. Yeah, I do like having that baseline there.
With perfection, does that also mean you can go a bit more risque with some of the stuff that you say?
Like controversial things?
Yeah, exactly. Like, can you really like cut close to the wind and just say stuff and see what happens? Or would you, again, is that personal brand? If you don't want to be seen like that, don't do it. Because what I'm trying to judge with a personal brand is, okay, that's the brand you want to put out. Yeah. How much of it is you? Is it the authentic you? Do you strive for authenticity? Thank you. Yeah. Or do you strive for putting the best foot forward, even if that's not necessarily you?
I think instead of thinking about what you're saying, think of the emotion that you want your audience to feel. So regardless of what you're going to say, I always want whoever's following me to feel almost either inspired or happy. Like, those are the 2 feelings that I try and aim for. But so I wouldn't say anything controversial that would make people angry, because that wouldn't be on brand for me. So I think look at it from an emotional standpoint first, because it's like, you could go out there and say stuff like what Andrew Tate was saying, and that wouldn't be on brand. You know, like, I mean, like, I don't think many of like your clients would still be coming to you. Or you never know, you might pick up a different type of clientele. But it's it's that emotional drive instead of what you're saying, because putting yourself out there on platforms, you have to be yourself regardless. I think if you start off pretending to be yourself, like we said, but once you eventually find your flow and you find out this is how I am and I can actually put my real self out there, then saying things that are out of character for yourself just for views, it won't look right anyway. But if you say your personal opinions and you're so strong on your own personal opinions, even if they're slightly controversial, still professional, I guess, because you're in the business, they will still get you the right type of engagement, and you'll still stay within that. I want to create this emotion for people who are following me.
So a question I have, just based on what you picking up on something. So you said TikTok that you posted today from your new account. So practically speaking, let's say we get a client, or even us, for example, we go, actually, do you know what? We want to double down on this platform, or this platform. Let's take my TikTok as an example.
Yeah.
I've posted like 25, 30 videos. Some of it like golf related, some of it gym related, some of it 12-25 related. It's a bit of a mismatch of everything.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've decided actually I want to double down on educational content, growing my personal brand in the organic search space. Am I better off just starting a new account, or do I take the existing legacy that has already built on that account and go from there?
How many followers do you have on this account?
Let's just say, for sake of argument, not a lot. Let's say 100.
Okay, I'd say start a new account, because you're not really actually risking losing. I'd say if you had 5,000 to start with, maybe 10,000, I would say, okay, there might be something there. Maybe you can leverage that audience. The thing is with TikTok, whenever I work with a new brand who's not been on TikTok, I do this thing called categorization. So basically what that in short terms is basically you go onto the platform and you spend time looking at the content that's within that industry, and so the algorithm picks up that your account's about that. You would follow some people who are related to your industry or the stuff you want to be talking about. You'd go and like content and interact with content that's related to that, and that helps TikTok to, I don't know if this is actually true, I've just always done it, and there's a lot of people who speak a lot about TikTok who mention this. That, in my opinion, categorizes your account to the algorithm. So the algorithm now knows that that's what you want to speak about. I've always found it works, because as soon as I've done that, I always get relevant likes. Whereas if I go on a brand new account and I just try and talk about things that are just random or something like that, then people, the people who are liking through will be just the typical audience you expect, like Gen Z people who will just be liking the video because it's got a liquid death bottle in it or something, I don't know, as a prop. So the categorization, it is important. So for a new account, so if you were to go and start a new account, start off with categorization and then try and stick within one topic as much as possible. So on TikTok especially, it's great if you want to talk about your hobbies sometimes, but I think especially in the first 2 weeks to the first 2 months, try to just focus on one particular subject, one particular, let's say you want to talk about SEO for care homes. Just speak about that. Literally just that. For the first 2 months, just literally do all the different levels of content. Same whether you set up a content plan for a website, do that just for here and just talk about it on camera and just speak about that. Add the same topic hashtags, include the keywords in your video, use the captions in app to make sure that those keywords are mentioned. And what you'll notice is TikTok will then realize, I'm just going to show it to people who are interested in that. You also, the issue with this as well is sometimes you'll come along and you would have produced content like that, and what happens is it's not being shown to the right people, or there's not enough of the right audience on that platform. But you realize that pretty quickly if you've put out enough content and you've actually done it to a good standard. So
moving on slightly,
and
this is something that I think we're getting asked a lot about from both our existing clients and from potential clients at the moment as well, is there is a lot of talk about search dying. And there's a lot of talk about the landscape evolving. So top line overview, how is the search landscape changing?
So wow, this Nando's really messed me up.
Do you want another drink, by the way?
Yes, please.
Sweet. Yeah, if you could.
I was going to jump in at one point. I see Ray nervously drinking. Who's up at that?
I think we need to do the start bit again. The first 2 questions.
That's fine. We can do
I feel like we warmed up. I definitely warmed up. You guys were fine. I warmed up after the 3rd question.
Yeah, we can go. That's fine. That's fine.
I would just say, when you say this question, I would just add that he's obviously spoken about this a number of times on like at Brighton SEO and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a nice value add for the audience. Like, why should they listen? If that makes sense.
Yeah, but we'd say all that stuff in the intro.
Well, okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, okay.
I think, but
cool.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. As long as we say that sort of stuff,
we
because
always say, don't worry, we'll hype them up.
Yeah, good. we want to make you the expert. Like,
yeah. All good.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, thank you, man.
All right, so we'll go back to. So I'll ask the question.
Yeah,
just teeing it up. And yeah, once we've finished everything, so we've only got a couple more. We'll do search landscape.
Yep.
Onto a little bit about local businesses using Facebook and other community groups.
Yeah.
Quick fire, and then we'll circle back around to those opening questions again.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Sweet. All right, nice. So, moving on slightly, one of the things that we're getting asked a lot at the moment is about the search landscape in general. So I think we have quite a lot of clients and potential clients who are seeing like those top line headlines of like AI is here to kill SEO.
Mm-hmm.
Google are bringing out like AI overviews, for example.
Yeah.
Social is taking over. Like, top line from you, how is the search landscape changing?
So Google's not being replaced and it's not going anywhere, in my opinion. And I'm a massive advocate for social in general. Like, before I did SEO, I did social media, and I still work very heavily in the social side of things. What I'm seeing right now, and it's strange because I'm just shocked that more SEOs aren't seeing this. With the brands I've worked with, search is not going away. It's not dying. People are searching just as much as they always were. The only difference is that it's growing. So people are going to other platforms first. So they'll go to TikTok and they'll do a search and they'll start their search journey there and they'll do some awareness style search, like things to do and stuff like that. And then they'll go over to a platform like Google, and that's where Google will play a major part, where they'll go into that kind of consideration phase. They'll start asking questions. They'll go through that process there. And then they might go to Reddit and they'll do a search on Reddit to get that kind of UGC style content that they need. And then they might use AI to plan out a trip for them as part of that. And then go back to Google. So the thing is, people think that it's is or, and it's not or, it's and. Like, these platforms are coming together in a way that we've never seen before. The search journey is just growing. And I think that people are a bit afraid of that because, like, they want Google to go and they want things to change because that's how the industry has always been. But consumers still use it. The whole thing around how before this is not AI related but more on TikTok side of things, was people thought that TikTok was the platform that Gen Z were using to search over Google, and the data proved that wrong. Google is still the main platform for that. The whole AI side of it and how that's going to play a part in it, and I think that's just going to go back into that exploration and that evaluation phase that people are in. We're just bouncing between those two so much in a search journey, and that's just adding to it. It's another data point for us. Because if you go on social media, there's so much misinformation on there. So when people read a post on there, they're like, is this true? We get it drilled into our heads now, especially younger generations. They'll have it drilled into their mind that you can't trust everything you read online. So what they'll do is they'll just do some critical thinking, and they'll go across to all these different platforms to make a decision. Now, a lot of people think that takes a long time, and that doesn't. People can do that within 5 minutes, half an hour, and they can make that decision based on that. So I don't think SEO's dying. I don't think search is dying. I think it's going to become an integral part of the marketing strategy for every brand. The only thing is, it's going to happen on a cross-channel basis, and it's not just going to be Google anymore.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of theories and thoughts I have on this, which I'd be interesting to get everyone's takes on. So, I'm not sure impulse is a thing anymore, in the sense of that I think it's very rare that you get an impulse purchase because, like you say, like,
tell that to my girlfriend because TikTok shop gets rinsed.
Yeah, it will. But I would imagine like she would have seen that thing several times before she made that purchase, right? I don't think it's the case now. If you see that one ad, and boom, it's probably I see that ad. I then go do some research across 3 platforms about that company. Then I go back. That still may happen.
Yeah, find a cheaper alternative.
It might still happen in 5 to 10 minutes, but it's less of an impulse thing now. You're more educated by the time that you've made that purchase, right? Like,
agreed,
5 years ago, you would have bought something. How common was that actually to say, like, I hope this arrives? Right, because you had no idea if the company was legit. Do you remember, like, back in the day?
I don't remember that.
I hope this arrives. I hope this is legit. I don't think that's a thing anymore. I think people are more educated than they've ever been, and they understand how to research more. The second thing that I saw, there's an article on the BBC like 2 days ago about this actually, which is the uptake of AI is nowhere near as quick as people think it is. because it's in the news so much, it feels like everyone's using it, when in reality, okay, like OpenAI got to what, like 100 million users very quickly.
Yeah.
But how many of them are repeat users of AI versus went on ChatGPT once, got blown away by it
Yeah.
because they could answer a question, and practically not using it every
How
day?
many of them are just normal day-to-day people? Because most of the time, I'm just seeing people who work behind a desk all day that use it. I'm going to get, I think, more concerned when the normal data, like my brother who's an electrician, if he's using ChatGPT to answer things for him instead of going to Google, that's when I'm thinking, okay, consumer attention is moving here.
Yeah.
General populace, like that's moving to this platform now. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
I think we will get there.
Yeah.
I think it will
I agree.
happen. I think when it happens, it'll be quick.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like a immediate worry. I think you should still focus on just
Yeah.
finding where your audience are and producing content.
I think for me, the analogy of what's happening and shifting within the search landscape online is very similar to back in the day. I'm old enough to remember there was only 4 TV channels, terrestrial TV channels.
Oh my God.
You didn't have Freeview, you didn't have streaming, you didn't even have things like Love Film where they send you DVDs in the post that long ago. But I feel like that whole era of broadcasting, everyone had to be broadcast to, and now TV is narrowcasted. And I think search is going that way as well. Different audiences, different groups of people will be on the platforms and the channels they want to be on. And I think the only difference now for search marketers like ourselves, we've got to go to where our audience is. We can't broadcast our message on the channels we want to. We've got to go to our audience.
Yeah, because I always say if social media disappeared tomorrow, Google disappeared tomorrow, I would literally be handing out flyers because that's where the attention would go. You know, that's what I would be going to do because that's where consumer attention would go. And a lot of brands, and this is the same thing. So this is on the other side of things when you speak to traditional SEOs who just still think that none of this is happening, and they, like you were saying earlier, they just ignore the whole thing of socials coming into play, ChatGPT's coming into play, and they just think, oh, you know, we've seen FAQs before, this is not going to affect us in any way. That's also wrong as well. The reason why that's wrong is because oftentimes when they say this, and I've spoken to big names like within the industry who've told me themselves that really they're just afraid of this change. So it comes from a place of insecurity, and that's not a bad thing. It's just something that we have to understand, that that's why on the other side, on the flip side, why people also see it like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's, no one really knows what's going to happen. If we did, well, you know, we'd be a lot richer, you know. So
let's bring it back though. Like if you're a business owner listening to this, we've said a lot of overly marketing focused stuff, right? The message there is that search isn't dying, but practically what do you do? Like if you're a business owner, a small owner of a small business, and you haven't got like an agency managing all this, you're just trying to run some of the marketing yourself, what do you change?
You work out, the only thing you really got to change is just work out where your customer hangs out online.
Yeah.
Work out where they're searching online, because that's, then you've got a platform that you can actually focus on. You can start small, because if you go, okay, I've just heard these guys on this podcast talk about how it's across all these platforms. I need to be on Google. I need to be on Facebook. I need to be on Reddit. I need to be on Google. I do all these different platforms, and I need to be on TikTok, etc. What you really want to do is work out, okay, I'm a local business. I sell, I don't know, your bubble tea restaurant or something like that who just sells bubble tea to your local area. Okay, I know that most of my audience are on the local Facebook groups in the area, and they're on Instagram. So I'm just going to focus on those 2 platforms. And then I'm going to optimize my website so that it comes up for this. But maybe I'm not quite ready to do the full thing on Google yet. So work out where your budget is, work out where your audience is, and go from there.
So that's a beautiful segue into our final question, which is talking about, so we had a great podcast guest actually. Ian and Erica spoke about this really well, about how important community marketing is now, and how I think everyone's on. I think it's your point around narrowcasting now, not broadcasting, is that everyone's nice, like finding themselves within communities now rather than being more generalized split into. How important are, you know, like Facebook groups and other online community groups for local businesses?
Massively important. So if you've got a local business, you got to think of it like this: the Facebook groups in this country control the culture of your local town. They literally run the culture of your local town. All the things that are going inside, whether there's a helicopter flying over or someone's dog has gone, it's all part of all the nuances and things that people in your local area are interested in. And it's being controlled by this Facebook group. So it confuses me when people don't want to be part of that conversation, or, as we were saying earlier, they find it very cringe. So my uncle is really good at doing local Facebook marketing. And I don't help him at all with this, to be honest, but he has his own pest control company and he's done this for years. And he's a good example. I want to speak about this because he just gets involved with the community and he gets hundreds of likes in a local Facebook group. That's a lot of a massive amount of engagement, so much so that he's almost like a micro influencer now because of that. So he'll not just contribute in terms of this is what's happening. He'll post funny content. He'll post, like, because he's a pest control company, he'll post like memes about wasps and stuff like that. And then he'll actually contribute as well with valuable tips. He'll say if someone has got a problem with a wasp's nest in their area, he'll comment on their post how to get rid of it instead of just selling his services like most other businesses will do. Because what happens is a lot of local businesses get into the trap of, I am just going to post my name. I'm just going to tag my brand name in every post I can. I'm just going to post, oh, we've got an offer on this week, just like everyone else does. What's interesting is Facebook knows that that's just like an offer and they'll just devalue you in that group anyway. Or people will just swipe past you because they know it's just spam. But if you're actually integrating with your community, if you're contributing, you're posting educational content, you're posting memes, you're giving people advice for free, people are actually going to go, oh, actually, I want to go use his pest control company over a competitor's because he actually interacts with us. And that's the name that comes top of mind whenever I think of pest control now. So shout out to my uncle. He's really good at it. Yeah.
Mate, that's amazing. That, like, as soon as you were saying that, all I thought about was my missus, editor. She is on our local Facebook group, just scouting around, telling me what's going on. Like some days in the morning, I'll get in the car. It's like, oh, don't go down that road because it's closed today because of this, that, and the other. And it's like, how do you know that? And it's like, oh yeah, the Facebook group, and she knows everything that's going on there. So yeah, it's just interesting. So
you can think of it like digital PR as well, because when something like that happens, the same way in digital PR, you would trendjack a story that's happening nationally, right? You can just trendjack that on a local level. You can take that closed road sign, post a meme of your business, you holding a sign in front of it, or like some sort of meme that's related to it, post that into the Facebook group. That is going to go off. Because it's so that community, it's so ingrained in their culture, they really understand it's like an inside joke between just you and your town, and you're the one who's giving that joke, so that makes you the popular person at that party. So yeah, it's really powerful, really powerful.
I think there's two principles in there that ring true though, which is the local groups, their audience first, right? Like you're going specifically where your audience are, but then what your uncle is doing is very much a value first approach as well, right? It's value before sale. Yeah. And that should stand true in every principle of every marketing campaign, like I say, digital PR, SEO, social, whatever it may be. But it's so easy to forget that. Like you say, you just start tagging your business in every one of those posts.
And you hope for the best. I mean, that's quite powerful as well, because if you get enough people tagging you, everyone's just going, I need to go with this person because it's just, that's popular in my local area. But you can get to that by giving that value stuff, because eventually people will go, oh, I remember this person from last post, let me tag him in this one.
Yeah. Perfect.
Quick fire questions.
Questions.
You can pause, but then once you start answering, we should put a time. You've got 20 seconds to answer it once you start talking.
Oh my god.
Okay. Clippable social media gold. That's what we want out of you, Ray. Okay. You ready? Cool. Okay. So, right. You ready?
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay. Cool. Ray, what's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
So again, this from my uncle. Shout out to my uncle again. He said to me, starting a business with your families or friends is the most beautiful thing you can do in this world, because you're building with someone who you actually want to build a business with, someone you can hang out with in general. The only thing is, just have contracts. Make sure you've got contracts in place, because regardless of any argument that happens, anything that happens, you can just, it's not up to you, it's out of your hands. The contract controls it all, so you keep your relationship intact. And I've learned that massively over all the businesses I've had over the years. I think that as soon as you put a contract in place, it protects everyone. So yeah. What is one of the best or the most worthwhile investments you've ever made? One of the best investments I've ever made, I've got two that come to mind. The first one is uni, because a lot of people downplay on uni, especially in the entrepreneurial world. And I have my own business, I have my own consultancy, and I love the entrepreneurial side of it. But I really feel like uni did so much for me from networking to connections to be able to write stuff better. And the next thing is that there's another thing on this. If you want to look at it financially, I invested in this random crypto coin like years ago when me and my friends had this business, and it blew up randomly. So shout out to crypto.
I'll let you have your drink. Do you have a favourite failure?
Well, these are really deep, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
So one of the businesses that I used to have was a shisha delivery company, and unfortunately it didn't succeed because of COVID. COVID hit us while we were doing this at the same time, and I just felt like I learned so much from it, though. The way that I marketed that business and the way that I grew the brand, and I learned so much about local marketing, especially, that I was able to use and take into my career. So yeah, it was sad they ended. It was this great business, to be honest, but yeah, learned a lot of lessons.
So let's imagine you like sat on the other side of this table from
Yeah.
you is someone who's just about to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one bit of advice you would give to them?
Have fun and don't take it too serious, because as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we get so caught up into it that we just forget why we started doing it in the first place. So just make sure that you have fun along the way.
That's a good one. I think that is easy to forget. Like, we've had that conversation, actually. I think we had that the other week, which is like, okay, year one's pretty much done. Take it into year two. Like, how do we have more fun? I think it's easy to take it way too seriously.
Yeah, it gets like that.
You can tell who's the fun one and who's serious, like determined.
Yeah,
like,
go on, who do you think the fun one is, right?